former aide in the Clinton White House, and Michael Zaldiz, a CNN legal analyst, former federal prosecutor. He worked under Bob Mueller at the Justice Department. Ned, we got you to come to New York to play.
Yes, you did.
All right, not starting with you, though. Chris, to you. So it's called a Kate fake. Now the president says he doesn't remember much about this meeting where foreign policy advisor Papadopoulos said that he could set something up, that he's meeting with folks.
Yeah.
Let's all go back down memory lane for just a second. Here's what the president said to questions about connections with Russia back in February.
Can you say whether you are aware that anyone who advised your campaign had contacts with Russia during the course of the election?
Well, I told you, General Flynn obviously was dealing, so that's one person, but he was dealing as he should have been.
During the election?
No, nobody that I know of. Nobody
so you're not aware of any contacts during the course
look.
of the election?
How many times do I have to answer this question?
Can you just say
Russia
yes or no
is
on
a
it?
ruse. You have to get up and ask a question. I have nothing to do with Russia. To the best of my knowledge, no person that I deal with does.
So now how does this all fit together now?
Well, you know, he is saying, and I think it is somewhat understandable, he's saying, look, I have a lot of meetings, I didn't remember this one. The problem, this is often the problem for Donald Trump, the problem is that last Wednesday he was proclaiming himself to have, quote, one of the greatest memories of all time. So this
is a direct quote.
Look,
that is a direct quote.
I don't remember what I had for lunch yesterday, so I'm not going to put it on a guy that he doesn't remember something that might have been mentioned, you know, something that was mentioned in a meeting in passing. And I understand all that. The problem is he continues to portray himself as someone who does remember everything. So when you do that, you put yourself in a higher level of scrutiny, particularly when it relates to a meeting in which, according to court records, the proposal was made that then candidate Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin meet, and Jeff Sessions was the one who stepped in and said, we're not doing that.
Well, and on the Jeff Sessions front, Ned, he did not make the claim that he is one of the best memories of all time.
That's
so
right.
we will give that to him.
That's right.
We will hand that to him. Democrats now want him back on the Hill to answer questions about basically Papadopoulos and now Carter Page. There are more questions. I mean, do you think Sessions has got trouble on his hands?
You know, I think Sessions should probably go back up to the Hill and say, fine, I'll have any conversation that you want to have, put me under oath. I mean, to Chris's point, I mean, again, some of us have trouble remembering what we did a week ago, 2 weeks ago, a year ago. I've been in D.C. almost 20 years. You go to these dinners, somebody walks past, shakes your hands, hey, I'm doing this. You don't quite remember. So one of these things with Sessions, so much is going on. Does he remember everything that took place year and a half ago? I don't think any of us at this table could remember what we did exactly every day a year ago. So, you know, it's a little problematic with Sessions. I think that there are some people that are a little disgruntled with Jeff Sessions on a variety of other fronts, including the president at times. So I don't think that you're going to see a lot of us. I don't think you're going to see a lot of us defending Sessions. I've even called for him. It's probably good for him to resign, move on.
Do you still think so?
I still think so. I do. I don't think Jeff Sessions has been nearly. I think he made a big mistake by recusing himself from this investigation.
But that's the thing that everyone compliments him for. That's what everyone commends him for.
No, and let's put it this way.
That was the right decision.
I'm not a huge fan of Eric Holder's, but I respect the fact that Eric Holder would go to the mats every time for his president, and you do not see that with Jeff Sessions, and I think that's very problematic.
Keith, what do you think? Do you hand it to him that it's hard to remember? I don't know why you guys have such a hard time remembering what you had for lunch. Maybe I just think too much about food. But do you hand that to him, that this is a meeting that could have been forgotten? These meetings could have been forgotten?
I remember a quote from Donald Trump last year. Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 33,000 emails that are missing. I remember Russia being a topic of conversation for a part of the campaign last year. The idea that Jeff Sessions and Donald Trump conveniently don't remember this doesn't seem plausible. And Jeff Sessions, you know, Ned's saying that he won't go to the mat for Donald Trump. The reality is Barack Obama never had a situation where his people around him were being indicted, so he had never had a reason for Eric Holder to go to the mat for him like that. But Jeff Sessions is in trouble because Jeff Sessions right now is in danger of not telling the truth, not only to the Congressional Committee, but possibly to the American people. And he's going to be called to testify to the FBI to find out what he really knows.
Well, we will see. But, I mean, again, Jeff Sessions, you might like it or not, he's recused himself from all things Russia-related. I wonder what more Democrats want.
What more do they want from Jeff Sessions?
Yeah.
Well,
he's out of this. He's out of this Russia stuff.
Well, Donald Trump said today that he's not happy with what the Justice Department is doing. So I mean, you
know
have.
what? Let me actually get to that because I actually think this is important. And Michael, this comes to you. So drop some knowledge on us, please. Amid all of this, the president says today he's disappointed in the Justice Department and the FBI, disappointed that he can't essentially make them investigate Hillary Clinton, and that's basically it. He also slammed the Justice Department just yesterday and how it's handled terror cases, again saying we need them to be quicker, stronger, fairer. How is that received over at Justice, do you think?
Not well. Let's take each of them separately. Yeah. With respect to the president's desire to intervene in ongoing investigations that touch him and his orbit, that's just off limits. You can't do that.
Right.
To the extent that he wants to say, I want new policies with respect to the enforcement of our immigration laws, the enforcement or lack of enforcement of our environmental laws, the manner in which we proceed with terrorism cases, that's all fine. That's policy. He can say that. He's the chief executive officer. But he can't intervene case by case, and he keeps wanting to. And he's frustrated by the fact that he can't do that. But that's the constitutional system that we live in, that you don't serve as your own judge and jury and determiner of facts. It's just not right.
Go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say, just to Michael's point, I do think what you have to remember is Donald Trump's formative experience is different, radically different, than anyone else who's ever held this office before. Not served in the military, not ever held elected office. What is that experience? It's as a CEO, whether that's of his company, or of his reality TV empire, for lack of a better word. But the point is, in that world, everybody does work for you. And if you want something done, you tell them and they do it. I mean, he has struggled, I think, to adjust in many ways from being a businessman, private citizen candidate into being a president. And I think one of the ways that it's important to remember is he has no background in, he just assumes everyone works for him because that's all he's ever known. And he, you've seen this as it relates to Congress. He doesn't understand why Congress just doesn't do what he says. You've seen it as it relates to the judiciary. He does not have that three branches of government, tripartite government understanding because he's not terribly well versed in it, and he's never dealt with it in his own life.
In the most political sense, though, and Ned, you can speak to this, it has been working for him because despite, I mean, if you only focus on Russia, you've got 2 indictments and a guilty plea, and now more connections than before with relating to Russia. That's not moving the base. That's not concerning you.
No, it's not. I mean, if you look at it, in some ways, I would say Donald Trump had a great week on this Russia investigation. So did Bob Mueller.
Wait, how did Donald Trump have a good week in the Russia investigation?
Manafort and Gates were nailed for trying to hide $75 million while acting illegally as agents for the Ukraine. That's what this is. The 12 counts, we're dealing with them not doing foreign bank account receipts and failing to file FARA, Foreign Agent Registration Act. Because it has nothing to do with Trump-Russia collusion 2016 campaign.
If we let remove Trump and we inserted Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton, you would be going crazy over indictments over Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman or Barack Obama's campaign chairman.
And you step back, you realize that has nothing to do with collusion. Pop it off, volunteer, insignificant. No, the thing I will say about this, though, the thing I will say about this, though, that I think is bringing
volunteer, Steve Bannon, Paul Manafort.
But the thing that's bringing this to highlight, you mentioned Kushner at the very beginning. I think it's time for Jared Kushner to go home. Jared Kushner was very much involved in the Manafort decision. He was involved. He said, don't fire Comey on day one. When Jeff Sessions and Steve Bannon were saying you either have to fire Comey day one or you're stuck with him, he said, don't fire him. And then in May, he said, fire him.
Why are you rolling your eyes? I feel like you should be, like with them.
I'm not rolling my eyes.
I think Jared Kushner has been one of the worst advisors for the president. I think it's time for him to go home and for Donald Trump to say...
No way. There's no way he sends him home.
I think he should.
Keith?
Well, I think Jared Kushner is in danger of being legally culpable for his engagement in the Russia investigation. And because of that, he may want to leave office. But
he may want to go
seriously, he may want to leave office so he doesn't further endanger the president. If he really is loyal to the president, I think it might be in his interest to do so. And honestly, I think that's what scares Donald Trump more than anything else.
If he's loyal, if it's about the president,
I don't think,
the president's best interest, he needs to go home.
But I don't think Trump wants his son, Donald Jr., or his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, Kushner to be implicated in this. And I think he's willing to do whatever he can to defend them, even the possibility of perhaps even using the effort of the law to try to help them out.
A whole lot happened here. I'm just going to have to sit on it and marinate for a while.